playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game time decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
20-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen and watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anybody remembers that famous chip in that Tiger Woods hit at 14, long and left after he tried to go for the full flop, leaves it short, then chips in for par, goes on and wins. You know, that you can't miss left there. And it's all you're hitting off the tee is a full iron. You're hitting full iron into the fairway, and you're hitting a 138-yard fade pitching wedge. And you can either hit it on top of a minivan or you can't.
Only on
Great.
What's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. My name is Matt Stryker. His name is Joe Pisapia. Say it again because it carries weight. This is the place if you want to dominate, whether it be season-long fantasy, DFS, straight-up wagering, whatever it is, we've got you covered. Today we're talking baseball and football, and really quickly, at SportsGrid and at SportsGrid TV. Those are our social media handles. Just make sure you check and give us a follow if you aren't already, because, Joe, we're going to talk about so much today. I don't want people to miss it, but I'd like to start off with a huge congrats. The Fantasy Black Book for 2024 NFL season is out and pumping. How's everything going? How are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm resting too, which is odd for me. It's been a very stressful couple of weeks around the Pisapia household. A lot of moving parts going on, but one of the parts is now up on Amazon right there, the Fantasy Football Black Book 2024. So go get it today. Get yourself smarter for the NFL season. The ecosystem's in there, relative position values in there, everything's in there. So go check that out. But Matt, you're right. It's going to be a great show today. We've got football stuff in hour 2, looking at some running backs on the same team, different values of ADP. Who's the better investment? Really interesting conversation. We're going to talk about that, but a lot more baseball today as we are back to kicking around the little white round ball with the stitches instead of the big brown ball with the stitches. So we're going to talk about the Juan Soto injury because I think everybody held their collective breaths the other day. Juan Soto, obviously leading candidate for MVP, a guy that has been, I would say, not rarely, I would say most of the time you look at players like Juan Soto and your expectations are so high, especially coming into New York, especially coming in with all the fanfare, right? And he has exceeded expectations. How often does that happen? And Juan Soto has done that, and that is a very exciting thing. Now he's got this forearm issue. Now, Brett Boone says he's going to take Aaron Boone. I don't know what Brett Boone's talking about. Aaron Boone instead is going to talk about, see, this is what happens when I get rested. All of a sudden, I'm too relaxed. Aaron Boone said he's going to take a couple days off, see how he feels. But Matt, I'm sure everybody's still holding their breath, even though they're saying, oh, it's a bit of, tendonitis in there. It's a little bit of an issue. We all know what it could be, and it could be far worse. Now, I think the minimum is he misses a couple days, a week, maybe an IL stint. Maybe this is something that bothers him the rest of the season. But I don't know if you caught this, but I did listen to him discuss it in that post-game interview when he was taken out after that rain delay, which I understood. Rain delay, guys tighten up a little bit. It's an hour before you go back out there. Okay, I get that, precautionary. But it seems like from Soto's point of view, he was talking about how it felt, because he was asked, does it feel during swings? Is it painful? Is it during throwing? And he just basically said, just all the time. And that, to me, was the one that stood out to me. Now, you're a guy that has dealt with and worked through more injuries than most human beings in their life. What do you take out of that comment from Juan Soto? Because to me, that was a very telling one. Like, this is actually a big problem. And I know he's a tough guy. And we're going to try to soldier through. Plus, he's got that looming contract. But what did you take out of that little nugget that he dropped for us in that post-game press conference this week?
So in my experience around pro athletes, when you hear it hurts all the time, it's just a general complaint, a general malaise. It's kind of like someone saying we're all day to day. But to not want to answer specific questions, especially in that type of setting, a press conference, I can understand the approach. But overall, it is a very negative response to the machine, which is the body, to say it just hurts all the time. It's just stop asking, it hurts all the time, something is wrong. And I'm with you. But for the purposes of our show, we talk about season-long DFS and straight-up wagering. We were talking before the show came on the air, folks, about what this means for the Yankees, because if you think they were smoke and mirrors with Soto and Judge, you've taken away one part of that, the smoke or the mirror. Now you're going to really see the Yankees. Are they going to revert back to the Yankees that Aaron Judge could not sustain last year? How are the numbers and the odds going to look? We don't really understand, because the Dodgers coming into town muddies the waters. There's just so much public awareness here that we don't get a good bettor's eye, if you will. But wait a few days, and like Joe said, see where this Soto thing goes, because the numbers are going to have some type of miscalculation. And that's where we jump in, Joe.
Yeah, it's going to be a situation we're going to be monitoring very heavily in the weeks and maybe even months ahead here, but at least the days in the short term. Now, the good news for the Yankees is Garrett Cole made his rehab start in Somerset. Right here, AA Yankees, right around the corner from Joey P's house. I was going to go until they jacked up the prices 4 times the amount. Last time I was there, I think it was early May. It was $22. I sat there right behind home plate. It was $85 a ticket. I think that's somewhere around $1.75 a pitch. I got to do the exact math that it would have to be to watch Garrett Cole. And I'm all for it. I get it. But, I mean, come on. Come on, folks. Somerset Patriots, be better. What are we doing here? But they jam-packed the stadium regardless. Garrett Cole looked good. No issues right now. I guess as somebody who has been through a lot of Jacob deGrom stuff in my lifetime, I'm still skeptical, because I've seen this story play out numerous times before with deGrom, and I'm just concerned that the same story is going to play out with Cole, where eventually he gets back, and eventually, after a few starts, it goes the other direction. Now, Matt's making faces at me because he is the optimist on this show, and I am the pessimist now. I don't know how these roles reversed, but somehow that happened.
Well, hang on. Internet, do your thing. Is it correct for a minor league team to raise prices? What did you say, 4x what they normally
4x,
are?
Matt.
Because of a major leaguer is on the mound? Is that any different than a gas station price gouging during a crisis? I understand the idea of revenue, and I understand the idea of market. Trust me, I'm all about it. But with that said, there has to be a point where a minor league organization has to take a step back and say, this is special for the guy that's out there working hard, and his son is a huge Yankees fan. They can't make it to the Bronx. Cole is hurt. Guess what? He's in our town, our community. Let's make it affordable so that you and your family can come, spend some money in the community, and everyone can enjoy it. And guess what? The Yankees will benefit as well. Major League Baseball will benefit as well, because you will have branded a lifelong fan in that child. And trust me, I learned this. That's what matters. Brand loyalty matters. So to me, for the Somerset Yankees, slap on the wrist. That's not cool. Don't do that. Joe, what's next?
Well, they did do Dollar Dog Night, I told you. So, I mean, I'd have to eat my weight and your weight in hot dogs to make up for it. But it's still cheaper than going to Yankee Stadium from Jersey. I can tell you that. That's for sure. Good news for the Twins. Royce Lewis is back, and he's back with a vengeance. He was a dark horse MVP candidate going into the season. Now, he's missed too much time probably to get that award, but I don't know. I mean, going into Friday's action, he has 3 homers in 3 games, all solo shots, unfortunately, but still Royce Lewis. I've been trying to acquire him in leagues while he's on the IL. I couldn't do it. If you can get him still, good for you. If you're in a shallow league, somehow he was dropped at some point, just blow the fab budget on him. He's probably not available, but Royce Lewis is a difference maker in this lineup. He is a guy that the Twins, I think, have sorely missed, and they've kind of treaded water and kept pace a little bit in that division. But Lewis is a huge re-addition to that lineup, and it's going to make a big difference, especially if Pablo Lopez can turn things around. With Lopez, it's still, his peripheral numbers are still better than you can imagine. It just doesn't seem to be giving the results yet. But Royce Lewis is a guy that's going to help, I think, all the results on that team sooner than later. Bad result for the Houston Astros. Christian Javier is going to go on the IL for the year, out for the season. Tommy John, so he'll miss some of next season as well. So in your keeper leagues, this really kind of crushes you. Now, Hunter Brown has pitched better. Verlander's been a little up and down. Again, he's in his 40s now, so I think that's what we're going to expect. Do the Astros, Matt, have to go out there and make another move for a pitcher? And if so, where might that pitcher be coming from?
That's a great question. On the other side of the break, we'll talk more about it. But you have to start to look at teams that are out and start to think of names outside the box. I mean, Cal Quantrill, there's like a name that I can throw you. He's pitching for the Rockies, pitched really well for the Guardians. These are the type of names that you don't think about, that you will start to hear their names come up more and more, Joe.
Yeah, certainly some unexpected names might come up. Who knows? Could be a Luzardo, could be a Severino from the Mets. Even a Garrett Crochet could be on the block. But we have a great show on the block for you the rest of this hour and next. Again, baseball, football on FST on SportsGrid. We come back. We're going to take a look at some of the unexpected performances of the first third of the season, because we are 2 months into it. And some names leading the league in a lot of things that we didn't expect. Who is it? We'll tell you when we return.
The Warriors learn some of that split action that they run offensively and bring it to your own team. Folks, the name is Kenny Atkinson. Every time there is a job with a young core that needs to take the next step, I always think of Kenny Atkinson.
Only on SportsGrid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole is getting ready to come back too. I guess this, look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Great.
All right, welcome back into FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. My name is Matt Stryker. His name is Joe Pisapia. And right now we are going to get into a very fun segment that I think has helped a lot of people. Remember, just because the concentration is season-long fantasy doesn't mean that we can't apply this to DFS and, of course, straight-up wagering. And for me, Joe, that's where I really enjoy the conversations that we have within the topics. And I'll let you set up this particular segment, especially its name, the title that it's been given. I'll let you handle all that. But the point to me is having the overall discussion about baseball and, as you coined, offensive ecosystems. It really helps me in my daily wagering. It really helps me when I'm opening up my apps and just having an understanding of what a team looks like in our mind. Having that understanding of what two teams look like really helps you wager. And there are some unexpected things you don't expect, but all of a sudden these guys are becoming a team's identity.
They are, and some of them had some good seasons last year that have carried over that I did not expect personally. And some have really maintained hot starts that I also did not expect. And I think that's the difference sometimes for certain offenses and certain pitching rotations where you're getting contributions where you didn't think you were, and that makes a significant difference in the standings. And when you look at a team like the Atlanta Braves, who, even though Acuna's on the IL, you haven't really had vintage Acuna all season. He kind of had a rough April, basically, a slow start. Now, maybe that knee had been bothering him the whole time, and he just wasn't talking about it, and then eventually he gave out. You had Ozzy Albies on the IL, Matt Olson with a sluggish start. Austin Riley's been dealing with an injury for, I don't know, God knows how long. It's been a ridiculous amount of time. He never went on the IL. Can you put somebody on the IL and retroact it 59 days? I don't know. We can look. But I would say this. Marcell Ozuna has been that one guy that's really stood out in the middle of all this chaos for the Braves. And I was a guy picking the Phillies anyway for this division in the beginning of the year. I'm picking the Phillies for the National League. I'm picking the Phillies for the World Series. But the Braves, I think, are still a playoff team. And as long as guys like Marcell Ozuna continue to do what they're doing, the other guys are going to come around. And it's amazing. It's a tribute to the Braves organization that they can lose Ronald Acuna, arguably the best player in baseball, and they can continue to put out a lineup that looks outstanding. Now, the rotation's got to come together a little bit. Still some question marks there at the back end of that. But Marcell Ozuna so far this year, 18 home runs for him, 312 batting average. The guy has been driving in runs. He got 55 runs batted in already. Again, we are just a third of the way through the season. I don't want to extrapolate these numbers,
right?
But even if you just double them, they're pretty impressive, Matt. Like, they are really unbelievable. And he had a great year last year, too. So the shortcomings as a defensive player, sure, they exist for Ozuna, but he has been absolutely incredible. I think at some point you have to imagine there's a little bit of regression here, but something has changed for him going to Atlanta. That consistency's really emerged, and he has become this player that I think nobody really expected, and certainly the Braves needed more than ever in 2024 to carry that offense with all the other chaos going on around him.
What Ozuna is doing right now is elite tier. And if you don't want to extrapolate, I understand, but it's hard not to. Then you see that the guy is on pace for, I think it's like 58 home runs, 150 something RBIs. But even if it's not even close, think about it from the wagering perspective. Think about it from the OPS. Think about it from the hitters around Ozuna in the lineup, and then start to wager accordingly. If you are scared off because of the Acuna injury, if you're scared off because of Olson just not hitting, you have to find different ways to still wager on the Braves, to still find them to be profitable. Because when you look at the National League, you have your elite tier of teams that you wager on when every day you go to your book. You look at your teams. Then you have those Midland teams, and that's where you lose. You have to have knowledge. So, Joe, I think Ozuna is solid. I think he's consistent. And if you want to extrapolate, go ahead. But even if you want to mitigate those numbers, you can still find those pockets that we look for all the time in wagering.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine him not getting above 30 home runs this year with the start he's had, but we'll see. We'll see if he can continue. Another guy who got off to a hot start that we've seen this happen before is Jerickson Profar. We've seen Profar have stretches where people pick him off the waiver wire and then 2 weeks later end up dropping him back. Now, it hasn't been the case for us. This is 2 months now of Jerickson Profar with the Padres, who has been outstanding, hitting 320 on the year, 8 homers for him, 4 steals, 34 runs scored, 38 RBI. Profar once upon a time was the number 1 prospect in baseball. It's easy to forget that because it was so long ago. And he's bounced around a bit, but Profar, I think Matt and I continue to look at each other and say, well, when is this going to stop? I thought it was going to stop weeks ago. It hasn't. He has still been a really steady player. So I guess at the end of the day, Matt, you picked him up off the waiver wire. You continue to ride the wave as long as you can. Baseball is a game of streaks, and Profar is on a really hot one now for not a week, not a month, but 2 months now.
So I'm going to talk in a language that'll make it easy for everyone to understand. If you've been paying attention to this whole GameStop thing and understanding what apes, roll straw, all these things mean, there are 2 types of investors. You have diamond hands that hold on no matter what, and then you have paper hands that'll sell quickly. I've always been paper hands on Dickerson Profar. He's that type of stock. I hold him for a small profit. He's not a long hold, if you will. I'm not getting rich on Dickerson Profar. But for me, a lot of times I'm concentrating on much bigger stocks. But right now, as we turn the page in the calendar, if you're still playing with some of these smaller players and smaller investable rates and time periods, I think you're shorting yourself. You're going to find July 4th upon us really quickly. And if you're still in 6th place in a 12-team league, you've done something wrong. Let's talk some pitching before the break. What do we have?
Yeah, two pitchers that have been absolutely outstanding this year. The first, Ranger Suarez of the Philadelphia Phillies, pitching to a 1.70 ERA. It's been unbelievable. A 0.80 whip. He's got 79 strikeouts and 16 walks in 74 innings. He has been an ace along with Zach Wheeler in that rotation. Nola has been more like the third guy, which, again, is why I like the Phillies so much. And Tanner Houck of the Boston Red Sox, another one, too. A 1.91 ERA for him over 85 innings, 84 strikeouts, just 15 walks, a 0.92 ERA. You know, we said going into the year, if this Red Sox rotation stayed healthy, the Red Sox could be a really plucky team. Now, unfortunately, they've had injuries. Bayo has missed some time. Giolito missed time at the beginning of the year. He got hurt, and he was going to be gone the rest of the season. Garrett Whitlock out for the year, too. So, unfortunately, things haven't gone their way. But Tanner Houck has been that guy. You look up at the top of the standings where the Red Sox are, and you look up at the leaderboards, and Tanner Houck shows up a lot. And that is something I don't think anybody realized. And both of these guys came in at an extreme value this year in drafts. So if you have both these guys, good on you. Do not let them go. Even if that ERA goes closer to 3, you've already gotten a fantastic investment out of them. When we come back, we're going to take a look at a guys that maybe it's time to cut bait with in terms of our investment. To hold or drop? That is the question we'll answer when we return.
The Warriors learn some of that split action that they run offensively and bring it to your own team. Folks, the name is Kenny Atkinson. Every time there is a job with a young core that needs to take the next step, I always think of Kenny Atkinson.
Only on SportsGrid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole's getting ready to come back too. I guess this. Look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, "Look, don't come back." I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt and Joe with you here. Before the break, funny, I was talking about diamond hands, holding, paper hands, selling, and I was thinking if you're into any of that, please hit me up on social media because I'd love to talk to you because it's an ever-growing industry and I'm learning every day. But it sets up this segment here, which is FST hold or drop. It's essentially the same thing. So we're going to run through some players here and talk about if we're going to hold or drop them. Where would you like to start, Joe?
Well, I want to start with Luis Matos of the San Francisco Giants because there's a player that with the Jung-Hoo Lee injury, all of a sudden a spot opened up. Matos had a good spring, got sent down, seemed to be pouting a little bit there about it, and then got another opportunity. Came out of the gates red hot, right? Hit a home run. That first game he was up there. All of a sudden people ran to the waiver wire, and unfortunately just really hasn't been good ever since. Just to point out how bad it's been over the last 14 days, he has a .129 batting average, a 281 OPS. Like, that is not good. That's not what you want out of a player. And everyday playing time is now going away from Matos. And I think this is a player that, although young enough and interesting enough from the numbers at AAA, remember, those are PCL numbers at the same time. So we always take them with a grain of salt anyway. So it's tough sometimes to transfer those numbers over. I think with Matos, this is a player that the Giant system in general, if you look at what they've not done recently, Joey Bart was supposed to be that guy, right? He was going to be that catching prospect, was going to be the guy forever. He's not even on the team anymore. Now he got DFA'd. He was on the Pirates. He hit a grand slam against him a couple weeks ago. Matos, another one of these guys, Helio Ramos, like there's these players that they haven't really hit on quite yet in their system. Wow. And it's been a problem because for the Giants to regain that competitiveness that they had when they had those World Series runs, it was because of the Buster Posies of the world. It's kind of the players that they built internally. And then that was helping to entice some free agents to come here to San Francisco. And I don't think that's really been the case for them. So that's been a tough problem for this organization in the last, I would say, 5-10 years even to deal with. And Matos feels like another symptom of that. So unfortunately, Matos, I know you picked him up. I know you had high expectations. But at this point, I think it's okay to drop him. And I think he has been one of the most dropped guys out there in Major League Baseball, according to CBS right now, which is a good place because that's a place where people are paying for leagues. So look at those ad drop numbers and situations like that as opposed to some other spots like the ESPNs where everything's basically free.
And that's good advice. With regards to the Matos play, you mentioned Helio Ramos. Helio Ramos right now is playing well. He's a good ad. You can also look to players like Alec Burleson actually qualifies at outfield. Yep. Davis Schneider actually qualifies at outfield. So don't, take into account reality versus fantasy. But Joe's right, especially something as fluid of a position as outfield. All right, let's go to first base now. Who do we have and where can we go?
Well, we had a big conversation a couple weeks ago about Spencer Torkelson, and I said hold because I thought he was starting to turn things around a little bit. And I still believe that. I think that the Tigers just have gotten frustrated. And if the Tigers are frustrated, you can only imagine fantasy owners, right? Because the fantasy manager out there, had an investment in Torkelson, a guy that had a really bad start last year, a really bad start this year, and then last year turned it on and ended up hitting 30 bombs. And this year, since he's been sent down, I just want to point this out, 5 games, has a homer, hitting .333 with a .391 on-base percentage, a .963 OPS. Now, it's a short sample. It's a small sample. But I do think it's just a matter of time before Torkelson comes back up. Is he going to be a 300 hitter at the major league level? No. He's a kid that's still trying to figure things out, and maybe he was rushed a little bit developmentally, but I would keep him on my roster in a deeper league if I could, because I do think you're going to see him up here by the end of the month, if not sooner. And I do think he can be a contributor in the second half, and that power is for real.
All right. With the time left, I want to really hear your thoughts and opinions on a starting pitcher that currently, I do believe, is still down in the minors, though he has had a taste of the majors. Your thoughts?
Well, Christian Scott has been great. And the Mets said, well, we don't like greatness. Let's send you back down to the minor league. No, what happened was Christian Scott got kind of forced out. Peterson came back, McGill came back, and they wanted to give these guys spots in the rotation because, the Mets don't want to really look to the future and groom future stars when you have a guy lights out like Christian Scott. Why be competitive now when we can save innings for late August when they're completely irrelevant? If you can pick up the sarcasm in my voice, I'm happy because I'm laying it on pretty thick. This makes no sense to me. If you have Christian Scott, right, exactly. If you have Christian Scott, hold on to him. Keep him on your roster. The Mets have guys like Severino, Quintana. There's other guys in this rotation that might get traded, moved on from at some point. Other injuries could happen. Christian Scott right now, even if they're trying to manage his innings a little bit like the Marlins did with Max Meyer, I am still holding Christian Scott. He will be back at some point in the season, giving you some quality starts. The problem is, for the Mets, there'll be irrelevant starts. But again, that's kind of how it goes. Now, when we come back, we're going to continue to plug away here at Major League Baseball, talk about some of the people who are red hot, maybe not, when we return on FST.
The Warriors learn some of that split action that they run offensively and bring it to your own team. Folks, the name is Kenny Atkinson. Every time there is a job with a young core that needs to take the next step, I always think of Kenny Atkinson.
Only on SportsGrid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole is getting ready to come back too. I guess this, look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. Great.
All right, welcome back into FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia with you here, giving you everything you need in order to dominate, whether it be season-long fantasy, DFS, straight-up wagering. We've got you covered. We're talking baseball now, some football coming around on the other side. Right now, we're looking at FST 3 up and 3 down, and it's perfect for baseball. We're looking at players that are enjoying a ride and a wave. Are they investable? Is it sustainable? And players that are on a decline. And do we buy on the dip, or do we short this because we think that they are truly going into insolvency? Where do you want to start? Let's start up. Who do we have?
I want to start up with a guy that hasn't made the show all year since the season started. We talked about him in draft season, but really, it's kind of fascinating. We're into June already, and we have not made one graphic for Fernando Tatis Jr. Not one. And it's been because he's kind of been, as the kids like to say, mid most of the year. The last 2 weeks have been anything but mid. He has a 14-game hit streak going on. Look at what he's done over the last 2 weeks heading into Friday's action. 2 homers, 7 RBI, hitting .411 with a .450 OBP and a .500 slugging and .932 OPS. He has been unbelievable in the last 7 games, too, hitting .464. Matt, I took this in all week on my betting stuff over on the Fantasy Pros MLB show. Every day we have a betting segment there, and I said, look, Tatis is red hot. Let's ride this wave. Let's just keep betting the hit prop over and over again. Run scored, RBI. Let's just keep going over and over. You can throw them in some parlays too in some sites. Yes. And guess what? Made a ton of money this week. Ride the wave of the hot player. Now, Tatis has gotten hot at the right time too, because they kind of desperately needed this, especially with Machado, a little banged up right now. But the Padres having these injuries with the pitching staff, it has been really crucial for them to have somebody like Tatis finally get hot, because let's be honest, in the month of April, he was quiet. He really didn't do much. The month of May, just kind of floating around, taking up space. Everybody was waiting and waiting for Tatis to get hot. And guess what? At the end of May, he finally started to. And now into June, he is red hot right now. So shout out to Fernando Tatis. Congratulations, buddy. You made the show. Now life really begins for you, Fernando. What do you think about this, Matt, here? Because Tatis is a player that he's a first-round pick, right? He is a huge piece in fantasy formats. But so far, if you invested heavy draft capital in him, he's kind of not delivered up until these last 2 weeks.
As an investor in baseball and baseball wagering, I begin to understand the age and maturity of a lot of these new players that are coming in. And I will find more often than not that I'm going to assign the Julio Rodriguez-ness to a lot of these new players, that meaning they will not get going until about June. It's just the way the new programs are coming out. We were talking off the air about some of the Rookie of the Year line movements, and later on in the show, we're going to do some line movement talk. But Joe brought up a great point, how especially in a Rookie of the Year, at the beginning of the season, it's never going to be that person. You look at a guy like Fernando Tatis, he's going to play to the back of his baseball card. If you dropped Fernando Tatis, traded Fernando Tatis, or faded Fernando Tatis, fine. But now's the time as a wagerer to, like Joe said, ride this wave, get that influx of profit, and start to head into the summer playing with the book's money. You don't want to head into the summer, Joe, playing with your own money. It's going to get way too hot. Especially, you talked about certain players starting to heat up. This next player from the Astros, a team that's been killing people on the wagering side, a guy is starting to get hot. Now a familiar name. Talk to me.
Yeah, it's Alex Bregman, who I understand, again, slow start, very frustrating. But look at what he's done the last 2 weeks. 5 homers, 10 RBI, 9 runs scored, hitting well above 300, a 688 slugging. I was shorting Alex Bregman. How dare I? Bad Joe. 1041 OPS. I mean, Alex Bregman has finally gotten right. So the fun thing about Alex Bregman is this. He is not the superstar necessarily that he was laid out to be when he was coming up through the organization, right? So he really benefited from incredible line of protection around him. Now, he still has a lot of it with Kyle Tucker and with Alvarez, but Kyle Tucker has got on the IL this weekend. More on that later in the show. We're going to talk about that. But Bregman is, I think, a very solid player still. Bregman is a little infuriating in those head-to-head weekly lineup kind of situations. Sure. I get that because he's going to have some down periods. But I think if you're in a season-long roto league and you draft Alex Bregman with a late pick at third base there, you just kind of set it and forget it. He's going to hit 260. He's going to hit 25 homers. When he does all that stuff, it's going to be a little bit of an up and down situation. But here's the thing. The overall numbers for Bregman still look pretty crappy. You're looking at the overall, he's hitting 235. The OPS is at 703, despite having this hot streak built into it. This is a perfect time for somebody who might not even notice or has already been disenfranchised by Alex Bregman to buy Alex Bregman, because now Bregman is in a situation where you probably have that cold streak, that cold start already behind you, and there's opportunity for a lot more. So I think Bregman's an interesting buy right now, and his overall numbers still show all the bad and not enough of the good, because it's been more than good. It's been great for the last 2 weeks.
And that's a great analytical point from you, is just seeing that the overall numbers are still reflecting the start. So when you look at them, don't be swayed. You have to go deeper and see. That's a great point by you, Joe, and it can only come from experience and wisdom. He's a pretty bright guy, folks. All right, let's talk some starting pitching here, because last week, I believe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, you said that this was the perfect sell-high candidate. And the response could be, how do we determine a sell-high candidate, a player that has maybe reached their peak in return, versus a guy that is breaking out, and then you look back at the end of the year and he still ended up doing it in August? Talking about Luis Gil and the New York Yankees.
Well, I said winter is coming for Luis Gil, and just like Ned Stark, a lot of people wanted to cut my head off, and I get it. I understand. But as good as he's been, we do have to be realistic. We are coming up closer and closer. We're almost at 70 innings now. 96 is the all-time peak for him in 2019. So at some point, something's got to give here, and Gil has been fantastic. He has been Garrett Cole. In some respects, maybe even better than you expected from Garrett Cole at certain times.
Right.
Garrett Cole's working his way back. Somebody's going to get out of this rotation, and it shouldn't be Gil based on performance, but it might be Gil based on just the Yankees looking at the long term and saying, all right, we're getting Garrett Cole back. If we move Gil to the minor leagues, let him throw 3 innings, stay in that rotation stuff, kind of let him slowly build back up, bring him back up in the rotation at some point, or move him to the bullpen, which I don't like that idea nearly as much. It's going to be a problem. And sure, other injuries could crop up any moment for this Yankees rotation. But at the same time, you have to be realistic. It is only June. So what is that inning total look like this year? Is it 125? Is it 130? I don't think it's 150 or 60. I can tell you that right now. And what does it look like when he reaches that mark? Does he start to fatigue? We've seen it happen with guys who are as good, if not better than Heel before in their careers. And that's the frustrating thing with him. So as good as he's been, and he has been great. I mean, the last 3 starts here, he's 3-0, 23 strikeouts, a .44 ERA, a .54 whip. Those numbers are unsustainable anyway. But I think at a certain point, you have to be more realistic. Now, the downs here, Adolis Garcia, that's a guy that is going to be up and down. He's in one of the down streaks, a great opportunity to buy, hitting a $111 over his last 2 weeks. 2 home runs, but 14 strikeouts. That's been the problem for Garcia. Brandon Nimmo, another hitter who has been down in the last 2 weeks. Now, he does have a couple homers, but again, 18 strikeouts, far too many. This is an on-base percentage guy, and the OBP is at 315.
Supposed to be.
No bueno. Yeah, that's supposed to be. He's hitting 229. That's not where you want him to be either. So these are 2 players that if you are hurting in the outfield, you're still waiting for Nolan Jones to figure things out or get healthy. If you're still waiting, to find a solution to Ronald Acuna, buy some of these guys right now if you can, because I think it's interesting timing to buy on these outfielders because they are better than this. Garcia, clearly the better of the 2. And then lastly, Jordan Montgomery. Another case study in what happens when you wait too long and you don't show up to school on time, Matt. Well, you get left back. That's what happens. Like Snell's learned the hard way. Jordan Montgomery's learned the hard way.
Funny.
And Jordan Montgomery, last 3 games, 12 innings, 16 earned runs, 26 hits, Matt. 26 hits. Jeez. So either he's tipping pitches or he ain't right. But we all know it's the same story. Pitchers are creatures of habit. If they don't have that habit, if they don't have that normal spring training, that normal routine, they try to force everything back, 2 things happen. They get hit around the ballpark, and they end up going on the IL. Now, we got Snell on the IL. What happens to Montgomery, we'll see. We return. Let's make some trades on SportsGrid.
The Warriors learn some of that split action that they run offensively and bring it to your own team. Folks, the name is Kenny Atkinson. Every time there is a job with a young core that needs to take the next step, I always think of Kenny Atkinson.
Only on SportsGrid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole's getting ready to come back too. I guess this, look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. Great.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt and Joe with you here, giving you everything you need in order to dominate. Looking at the clock here, and I'm on the East Coast, it's about 9:45 a.m. on the East Coast, and I understand that the Mets and Phillies will get going in about 16 minutes or so over in London. So, Joe, with the time that we have, why don't we take a look at some numbers here and try to see if there's any pockets, any ways to find some plus money here. We'll let you talk about the pitching matchup, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, you brought up a great point too, which is sometimes the Phillies can struggle against lefties. Now, Jose Quintana is not somebody that I think anybody's struggling against this year, but you never know. Taijuan Walker on the mound today, he's been struggle, period. So the over in this game is the way I want to go. But the interesting part is it opened at 9.5. It's been bet all the way up now up to 11. So most places already have it at 11. So can they get over 11? Probably. Yeah. I mean, I would still lean that way. But I think the more interesting way to attack this game is just stay with what's hot. And Francisco Lindor is what's hot. And that's a player we're going to be talking about here in this very segment about buying low because the overall numbers haven't been good. He's been good recently. So Lindor to record a hit and the Mets on the money line at plus money, plus 120 around that range you're getting at most books right now. You can get that together plus 147. That's a nice way to simply invest today. Matt, anything stand out to you in this Mets-Phillies London game this morning?
Yep, and I love this conversation. So looking at just the stats for this season, the Phillies have the most strikeouts against left-handed pitching. So my first thing is I'd want to see what is Quintana's K-prop for the day. And the next thing I've been finding is taking teams that I think are going to win on run lines, especially teams with strong bullpens when they're in the good plus money. Those are the use the term duo during the break. Those are the duos that I've been using, and I've been finding good 3-to-1s kind of. That's always been my rule. If I'm going to parlay, I got to make it worth it. But those are the things that jump out to me. I think this is a fun conversation as there's still about over 10 minutes for someone to go and go to their preferred book and try to find some options here. Good job by you, Joe. Where do you want to go next?
Well, I want to go buy some more things, Matt. I got all this money to
sound
spend.
like my wife. You are my Sunday morning wife.
Matt, come on, wake up. It's time to go to Costco.
As if she'd use my first name. You're cute.
I can't use what she really calls you on air, so I'm going to just use Matt instead. Let's buy Noelvi Marte. You know why? Because he's working his way back. That's right. June 11th, he starts his rehab. That's just 2 days away on Tuesday, folks. Remember Noelvi Marte, a guy we were super excited about before the PED suspension? I'm still excited about him. So let's go out there and buy some shares of him. Now, there's a good chance he's probably about 50% rostered in most leagues right now, so you can just pick him up. But this is more of a dynasty keeper league situation of buying. This is a spot where people might have forgotten, people might have uncertainty. So before he hits that rehab start, before he starts putting up numbers there in AAA, because he's a good player. He is not a player that is propped up on PEDs. Like, that's not what's going on here. To me, this is a perfect example of a time to buy low on a player. And I think you can on Noelvi Marte. And Marte is going to come up, and he's going to play every day because there's opportunities for him. So it's only a matter of time against the 11th. He had an 80-game suspension. We are on TikTok mode right now. And it's TikTok before Noelvi Marte comes back.
If you start dancing,
now
I'm
is
done,
the time.
dude.
That's right. Well, I mean,
he's doing it. He's doing
Macarena
the
stuff. Who knows what I do? Dr. Evil.
Give me a hug.
Aww.
Okay, this is great TV and radio, folks. That's Joe Pisapia, an author, a father, a coach. But all kidding aside, it's about giving entertaining information. And Joe's right. This is a highly touted prospect, and he is not, again, what the news tells you that he is. This is a good baseball player. And Joe, it's interesting, though, because pretty much every player on this list, highly touted prospects, we're going to find ourselves in a time with all of the talking heads where you're going to have a diluted analysis of prospects. And it's going to be hard to determine who's real, who's not, who's good, who's not. I mean, Evan Carter, remember that name? And all of a sudden now people forget about him. This next player, I don't think falls into such a category, but he is lumped in with a lot of the new young names that people kind of push to the forefront, maybe before anyone's really ready. I'm talking about Jackson.
Well, not all young names aren't good. Okay, they're just new, and that's something we all fall into. And Evan Carter was one that I did. I was sounding the alarm about Evan Carter. I think you recall that back in February and March. I said, look, this guy's going way too high in drafts. The frame I'm concerned with that holding up over 162 games. I think there's a lot of holes in the swing. I think he got hot at the right time, and he was good in the playoffs, and everybody watching the playoffs, and that's an unfortunate set of circumstances to live up to. Jackson Churio is a player that I have watched a lot, and I think there's opportunity here. I think with Churio, he is still so young that, again, kind of like Marte, this is more of a keeper dynasty league buy right now. He's only 20 years old. We've seen players like Mike Trout come up at 20 and struggle.
Right.
When I watch Churio play, I feel like he's getting more confident, even though the numbers don't bear it out necessarily. Over the last 7 games, he's still hitting 222. Now, there's a chance that he could get sent down at some point. And maybe kind of like Torkelson will have that thing where they get sent down, they clear their head, and they come back
Not
with a
at
vengeance.
$8 million or whatever they signed them for. You know?
Yeah, but you know what? If you're not getting it done at the major league level and you're at the top of the Milwaukee Brewers situation where they are at the standings right now, like in the Central, you've got to get this kid right because you need him in the second half. So maybe you give him 2 weeks there, especially because you're getting closer and closer to the All-Star break anyway, where guys are going to be off. So would you rather Churio be getting at bats and getting confident? I could see that happening, and if so, it's a great time to buy if that does happen. So keep an eye out for that. Another rookie, too, Wyatt Langford, is another guy that I want to buy. Langford, I want to remind everybody about Gunnar Henderson's season last year, because last year, Gunnar Henderson was the absolute dregs for April and May. He had a $189 in April. He had 213 in May. The combined OPS was around 700, okay? It was terrible. Gunnar Henderson went on a tear and won the Rookie of the Year last year in the American League. He was dropped in most leagues. Now, Wyatt Langford started slow, got hurt. Now he's working his way back here. He's back with the big club. This is a perfect time where people overpaid, got frustrated, maybe dropped him. I don't know. Chances are they haven't. He's just sitting on benches, and people are disenfranchised. Buy Wyatt Langford, because Langford is a player that I do believe in, not so much Evan Carter. So Langford could be the next Gunnar Henderson this year. It's very possible, and if you look at the wagering market right now, there's a great opportunity to buy him. Francisco Lindor, one more guy too. The overall numbers are still disappointing, but the recent trend is very, very exciting. Lindor could be another player that really could help you. He's a superstar who's going to play up to his baseball card, and he's starting to do that right now. So buy on Lindor, buy on Wyatt Langford, and the rest of these guys. When we come back, you got to make some roster room, so let's sell some guys off. We will when we return.
The Warriors learn some of that split action that they run offensively and bring it to your own team. Folks, the name is Kenny Atkinson. Every time there is a job with a young core that needs to take the next step, I always think of Kenny Atkinson.
Only on SportsGrid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole is getting ready to come back too. I guess this, look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Great.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt and Joe with you here, and a tip of the cap to the great crew behind the glass that keep us going. Honestly, Joe, man, we are nothing without our crew and our team. Now, I like before the break, we were talking about some buy low candidates. So you made the great point that you got to clear out some room when you buy new things. And I wish my wife were watching. I really do, because, honey, we can't keep going to these stores and buying more things and not throwing out the other. Okay, I'll just find room in the other room. No problem. I'll move my drums. No, it's cool. I have no aspirations. Okay, let's go to the sell high, because that's the only thing that's going to give me pleasure right now is a certain portion of that sentence. Jordan Hicks, former St. Louis Cardinals bullpen fireballer, then goes to the Giants and converts to a starter, and everything's great. And here comes Joe Pisapia saying, not so fast. I think you need to sell this. Why?
Oh, goodness.
It was a lot there, right?
It's nice not to have goals. That's what I'm saying. Then when you don't achieve them, you're not disappointed. Jordan Hicks, I feel like this is the poster child for the Louis Heel conversation that I was trying to have with people earlier in the show, where people are still mad at me probably about it. But here's a perfect example, right? Jordan Hicks, a guy that tops out probably around 78 innings, I think, in his career, the high at the major league level, right? So where are we right now with Jordan Hicks? Well, we're at 67. The last 7 games for him, he is 2-2 with a 4.09 ERA over his last 7 starts. The whip has come up to 148. The hit total has come up. The walk total has creeped up a little bit too. The last couple games have not been great for him either. You could see some of the fastball velocity decline a little bit, but Hicks was lights out, right? In April, terrific. Mm-hmm. But this is what happens. Like, these guys are going to hit these walls here who aren't trained. It's like asking a sprinter to run the marathon. They're just not going to be able to do it. So at a certain point, you have to look at this and say, okay, when is the time to get out? Now with Jordan Hicks, it's an interesting time, because if you look at the overall numbers, again, Matt, it paints a different picture. 2.82 ERA, 13 starts, a 1.19 whip. So everything looks really good on the surface level here, but the trend line doesn't. The trend line is telling you there's fatigue already setting in. There could be time where he moves to the bullpen. There could be time where he gets shut down. A lot of things could happen here. Could be injuries. There could be so many negatives. Him turning it around and getting back to being the dominant guy in April just doesn't make much sense to happen in the end of June. So I think we have gotten the most we can. The numbers look great. Let's turn Jordan Hicks into something else. But again, for those of you who think that somehow this can't happen to Louis Heel, it can. I'm not saying it's going to definitively, but you have to recognize the chance that it's probably more likely than not that it will. And that's the point of these conversations. It hurts to sell high, especially because you feel like a genius when you drafted these players. But in redraft leagues, it's a different conversation. Keeper leagues, that's different. Dynasty leagues, that's different. We're not trading Heel. We're not trading Hicks. We're just rolling through here and taking our lumps. But when redraft leagues are talking about, especially with playoffs in August and September, I just don't know if those guys are going to be around.
It's funny, my wife just texted me. She said, I am watching. So there you go. But you're 100% right. It is a great sell high. And just from an overall wagering perspective on the Giants, just don't forget that they do have Robbie Ray, and he should be back, I'd say, post-All-Star break. I think Keaton Winn is going today. Names like Tristan Beck, Alex Cobb. So there's stuff there for this team if you're looking for something to wager on. Let's go to Javier Assad here. You are not a big Assad guy. Why? Javier, at least.
Well, first of all, tell your wife that, to leave you behind, I'll go to the farmer's market. I love that kind of stuff. So I will go get the different honeys, and we'll look at the different. Yeah. No, you stay home. Go fix the pool, do whatever you got to do. We'll go out and do all that fun stuff and all this thing. Like, I'm a good shopping partner. You can leave Matt behind if he's miserable in the store. You got to sit him there and give him a hot dog.
What is going on? I want to talk about Javier Assad. You're saying I'm a curmudgeon and you're going to go fruit picking with my wife.
Well, yeah. I mean, geez, she deserves somebody who's excited about the farmer's market. You're not.
There's a double leg coming your way, my friend.
Javier
Assad. Let's go.
He's a guy right now who's pitching to an ERA, a run under his expected ERA. Once again, we've talked about this numerous times on the show over these last few weeks. Eventually, that comes to pay, and we're going to have to pay the fiddler here because he is a 5-inning pitcher at best anyway. League's figuring him out. He's gotten lucky. That xERA that's closer to 4 is going to take that ERA that's closer to 3, and eventually those two things are going to get real ugly real fast. Sell. And one more guy too, Jazz Chisholm. He is a guy with a lot of talent, but he's also a man without a team, because even if you think they're going to sell him, it might not be till the end of July. That means you have to do 2 more months here of gritting and bearing it with the Marlins, who have nobody in front of them and nobody behind them. And it's real tough to be an offensive powerhouse when you don't have a lot of supporting cast around you. So Chisholm right now, sell him off the potential trade. It hasn't happened yet. We return hour 2 of American Sports Today. Rock and roll.